channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Diane. Please go ahead and click that subscribe button if you want to be part of the family. So today I am going to talk to you guys a little bit about a story time, but not really. It's more like a reflection on my life because I know you guys like these kinds of stories. So if you guys follow me on Twitter, you will probably already know the general direction of where I'm headed. I just wanted to talk about growing up in such a strict household, what I learned from it, what I struggled with, and how it helped shape me into becoming the person that I am today. So first and foremost, I am Filipino, and my parents immigrated to Canada in 1998. So I was 2 years old at the time when we had immigrated here. I mean, I wasn't born in Canada, but I was basically raised in Canada, if that makes any sense. You know, like my parents gave their entire lives to be where we are today, and they sacrificed a lot. Like my dad had a good full-time job, my mom worked in the hospital, she also had a good full-time job. For the most part, compared to what it is like in the Philippines, my parents lived a pretty comfortable life there. They were, I think they were 25, 26 maybe. My mom might have been 26, my dad 28 or something like that, when they decided to literally leave their entire lives in the Philippines and immigrate to Canada so they could provide a better lifestyle for their children. I'm 23 next month, and I don't think I could ever have it in me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna move to a completely different country where I don't speak the language, I don't know any of the cultural, like anything about it basically. I just know that my kids are gonna have a better life there. Like obviously, I'm sure that if I ever had kids, I would want to do that for them, but at this point in my life, I could not even fathom having to do that. So the fact that they gave up their entire lives to have my brother and I be successful here is like a very big driving force in who I am today and why I do what I do. Yes, my parents were very strict, especially my father. My parents were very strict with my brother and I growing up. This meant things like, no, you're not allowed to sleep over anywhere. I found it very challenging to even have guy friends. I don't even know. I didn't even understand it, to be honest. Like, you can't go out with your friends after school. You have to study all the time, which I understand, but you can't go on trips. I think a big stereotype about strict Asian parents is that they're very cold towards you and all they care about is grades. And to explain that, a big reason why they care about grades is because they just sacrificed their entire life for you to be successful and to have a better life than they had. So obviously grades are super important if that means that it'll help you succeed in the future. They were not cold. Like, my parents always have been loving. My parents have never hung up the phone without telling me they loved me first. My parents always wanted to cuddle and always had family time when we were younger. And I think it was because they came here with nothing. Like, we were poor when we grew up. In our first few years in Canada, my brother and I didn't even understand what it meant to be poor because they never let us know it. I don't know how my parents made ends meet because my mom was a stay-at-home mom up until we were 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, 4 or 5 years old until we went to school. And my dad was the only one working at the time, and you know, like his wage I think was like $6 or something an hour, and rent was like $800 a month or something like that. They never made us feel like it was our fault that they had to give up their entire lives for them. Like, does that make sense? I haven't seen anybody who grew up in such a strict household talk about their experiences and how it shaped them to become the person who they are today. You know, so like I'm really glad that my parents were super strict with me because I am successful, you know? Like, I feel like I really enjoy my life right now, and I'm glad that I listen to them for the most part because I'm not struggling. I am able to do the things I want to do now. I make really good money for my age, and I have nothing to stress about over life. That's not to say that anything was easy though growing up, because it really wasn't. And being raised in a Christian household, and it was never really said, but it kind of made me feel like I wasn't able to be friends with boys, and that was really detrimental, I feel like, to my upbringing, because a lot of people that I really valued my friendships with, and some of my super best friends to this day from when I was 4 years old, are men. I found that like it really pushed me to become friends with a lot of girls that were not necessarily a good influence on me, but I felt like I was desperate to have those people in my life because I wanted to show my parents that yes, I have girlfriends, and yes, I feel like my parents just thought I literally didn't have any friends up until like I went off to university or something, because a lot of my friends were guys, but it was hard for me to like go out anywhere. Like if I want to go to the park or something after school, I couldn't because I wasn't going with like a group of girls. I would be going with like, you know, one other girl and like 3 guys. And so it was just like easier for me to stay home and not go out after school to do that, because I just didn't, like, it didn't feel, I don't know, like I had something in me like that. I didn't want to upset my parents. Like I didn't want them to think I was doing bad stuff, even though I literally was not. It was scary for me to have friends that I was so close to that were guys, because I didn't want my parents thinking about them the wrong way. It seemed like those 2 parts of my life were so segregated, like my friends and my family, because I was scared that my family would think wrongly of me, to know that I have a lot of really good guy friends. Like even things like staying after school to learn guitar. Like my friend, I really wanted to learn how to play guitar, and my friend who is really good at guitar offered to teach me. He said that we could stay in the music room for a little bit after school and he would teach me a few things, and I told, you know, my parents, and my dad was not having it. So like even just like innocent little things like that, it made me feel like having guy friends was just wrong, like wrong in general. So it made me feel really guilty throughout my upbringing to even have guy friends, even though like now in hindsight I can see there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people, by the time I hit age 18, a lot of people were saying like, girl, you're 18 now, why are you listening to your parents? I've even had adults say to me like, you know, you're in your 20s now, your parents don't control you at this point. And although that may be true in the Western culture and the Filipino culture, it's not like that. I can't speak for the whole culture just because like I predominantly grew up here in the Western culture. However, from my understanding, from what my parents have taught me, you're only really independent when, you know, you move out. If you move out, then, you know, you're your own person. You're able to financially support yourself, or if you get married, for example. When I was 18, 19, 20, 21, how old am I? 22. I'm still living at home. I eat free. I live free. I don't pay rent. The only things I'm responsible for is like anything to do with my car. Like if I have to get an oil change, I pay for my oil change. I pay for my gas. I pay for my car insurance. I pay for my phone bill. But in terms of like living, I don't pay for anything because my family still views me as like their child. Like I'm their child, and I still definitely feel like they're my parents' child. I don't know how it works here, like in Western families. Like, do you feel like when your kid turns 18 that they're an adult now, so they have to pay rent, they get kicked out, they have to find their own place, they have to get a job? I luckily come from a culture where family is literally everything. Family is always everything. And so my parents, like I said, came here so they could give us a really good upbringing, and it was my only job was to like take my blessings and actually use them. So I did well in high school so that I could get into a good program in university. I didn't pay for most of my university tuition. You know, I paid for living expenses sometimes. I did get a loan, which I completely paid off already on my own. But for the most part, my parents really did help me through university. You know, they paid my tuition. They gave me allowance every month, so they made sure that I wasn't going hungry. They paid my rent. So because they're still looking after me financially, emotionally, you know, they support me through everything. Because they want me to succeed in school, they don't want me to worry about having to work my ass off just to get a couple dollars to pay rent. Like, they want me to live comfortably so I can spend all my time studying. And that's what I did. And because I had that opportunity, my parents gave me that blessing, I was able to be really successful in university. I mean, like, obviously anything extra that I wanted in life, like if I was in high school, I was working 3 jobs. I was doing YouTube as one of them. But what I'm saying is that in university, I always got the thing like, well, you're 20 now, you're 21, you're 22. Why are you letting your parents control you? Well, because I wouldn't say they're controlling me, but the fact that they're paying for me to be here, they're paying for all of my expenses, the least I could do is to continue to respect them and to work hard because they gave me this opportunity. I would not be here without them. So yes, I'm an adult and it is my adult decision to respect my parents' wishes. I think being raised in such a strict household, it really formed me and shaped me, and I don't know if this is a good thing or if it's a bad thing, but it really shaped me into becoming so terrified of disappointing my parents. And I think that's one of the biggest, like the biggest pushing factors in my entire life to get where I am today, is I just do not want to disappoint my parents. It's not that I'm afraid of my parents, I'm just afraid of disappointing them. I think that fear of failure and the fear of disappointment, which again, I'm not saying, I don't know if it's a good thing, I don't know if it's a bad thing, but it's just who I am as a person. Just the fear of disappointing them is what really drove me to where I am today. It's not easy for anybody. It's not easy for your parents to always be so hard on you, and it's not easy for you as like the child to have so many restrictions. And I think that all of the restrictions I really had, it was a little bit damaging, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I missed out on a lot of good friendships, and I feel like I missed out on developing a lot of really good memories with certain people because I wasn't able to, like, I felt ashamed to be friends with them because they're the opposite gender. I feel like being so restrictive of my friendships also got me into so many toxic friendships simply because of the gender of that person, you know? Like, just because that your best friend is a girl, it doesn't necessarily mean that she cares for you the same way that you do. And another thing, the type of person that I am is like, I'm a very, like, I think I'm a very motherly person, especially in friendships. Like, I really try to take care of everybody. So it was hard for me to learn the hard way that not everybody is like you, you know? Like, I had a lot of friendships, and more specifically girl friendships, where I would literally mother them, give them whatever they wanted. If they wanted to take advantage of me, I let them take advantage of me. One time I had a friend that literally came to my house every morning so I could do her makeup, even though that means I wouldn't have time to do my own makeup before school. Like, I let them because I was so desperate for girlfriends. I just didn't want my parents to think A, like I didn't have any friends, and B, like I wasn't a whore for having like a bunch of guy friends. In hindsight, like I feel like I could be friends with a girl for a year or two, and then I would be so sick of the fact that like I'm giving so much and she's not giving anything. Or it doesn't even have to be a girl, but it could just be like in general. And I think that is a product of like my childhood, because I neglected the people, well, I don't want to say neglected, but I felt like I wasn't allowed to hang out with the people that could help me grow as a person, and instead I gave more of my time and energy to people that didn't deserve it because they were girls and because I felt like I wasn't allowed to be friends with guys. I haven't really had too many girlfriends in my entire life. Like, I feel like the ones that I have had, like, I feel like, okay, let's just say in my life, in my total life, I've had like a total of 10 really, really, really good girlfriends. 5 of those girlfriends are here to stay. They've been here to stay. I've been friends with them for years and they've never done me wrong, and they care about me as much as I care about them. And the other 5 is like those friendships I was talking about, where I would give so much of myself. I would literally fucking get walked all over for them just because I was so desperate to have a good bond with a girl. Before, when I was younger, I used to get so hurt. I was like so sensitive about so much, and I think because of my parents' strictness and like occasional tough love, that I have learned to kind of like, you know, take things with a grain of salt, if you will. So I think, you know, there really are so many pros and cons, and like this video is going everywhere. I know there's people out there that can relate to me, and I know that this video will also be good for people that can't relate to me, because maybe you have somebody in your life that you don't really understand, like, you know, why won't they come out on a Tuesday night when they're 18 years old? Like, you should be able to come out, you're an adult. Like, no, we got strict parents and we're not trying to get our ass beat, so like leave them alone, okay? If they tell you they can't come out because their mom said so, leave them alone. I don't care if they're 20, just leave them be. The way that I felt when I was younger in high school, not looking back at it in hindsight and not being able to see the true intentions of my parents. Like, my parents always had the best intentions for me, but I didn't see it that way when I was younger. In high school, when I wasn't allowed to go to my friend's birthday party, for example, because they're a guy, or I wasn't allowed to go and stay after school and play instruments with my friends, or I wasn't allowed to go to the gym because there's too many guys there. I think the way that I felt in high school, like, I felt desperate, I felt isolated, I felt alone, I felt like nobody understood, like, I felt like I had no reason to feel the way that I did, because everybody was like, well, why don't you just sneak behind your parents' back? Why don't you just do this and not tell them? Because, Bess, I feel really like, God, I feel so guilty. Like, that's me. If I do something wrong and I know I'm wrong, God, I feel so guilty. Like, I can't bear it. Someone is having a party or a get-together and there's going to be alcohol, I always said that I couldn't go because I don't drink. And even to this day, I still don't drink, but I just didn't want my parents knowing that I was at a party where there was alcohol, because I didn't want them thinking I was drinking even though I was not. You know, like, that's how guilty I feel, that even though I did nothing wrong, I just didn't want to put myself in a position where it seemed like I was doing something wrong. So this video is for all of my people out there who are currently in this situation, who feel like the weight of the strictness of their parents is so overwhelming and it's so like suffocating, and which it totally is. It is, and it's hard. It's so hard. It's so hard to grow and find who you are as a person, and it's so hard to just figure out what life really is and what you want out of it when you're so stuck. Like, you have to conform to what these people are saying. You have to conform to a schedule that you don't necessarily want to do. Like, you have to come home after school, you have to study, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And I'm not saying that my parents were like super strict where I couldn't go to the movies if I really wanted to, but I think it was also that like crippling fear of like putting myself into a situation that I didn't want my parents to think I was doing bad things, that I just neglected a lot of those things I didn't even ask in the first place. Like, if one of my best friends who's a guy asked me to go to the movies, we really like this one movie, for example, like, I don't know, if Thor came out and everybody else was busy and I was the only one that was free and he really wanted to go see it and we both really wanted to go see it, I still wouldn't go because it would just be me and him. And even though this guy is my best friend since I was 10 years old, I just didn't want to go because I didn't want my parents to like, what if they show up at the movies and they see it's just us two? They're gonna think that's something going on here. They're gonna think I was lying to them. They're gonna think I was on a date, when in reality I was just going to the movie that I really wanted to see with my best guy friend, purely platonically. Like, I was in that situation where I still wouldn't go because I didn't want to be put in a situation that, if I ever got caught, would look wrong. You know, growing up, it's not like I've ever told my parents this, you know. At the time, I just didn't understand these feelings of anger and isolation and maybe even depression that I felt because I didn't understand. For those of you that are out there that are currently feeling what I felt when I was growing up because of, you know, how strict your parents are, I hope and pray to God that your parents, I want to say, are just like mine, where they don't do things maliciously. You know, they don't tell you not to go places maliciously. They don't do it because they don't want you to have fun. They do it because they want to protect you. They want you to have your head on right. You know, they want you to be focused and driven and I don't know, hungry for success so that you can live a really good life for your future. But I do agree, like, I see it from both point of views now that I'm older. As a child, as a teen, you want to be able to express yourself. You want to be able to hang out with the people that you want to hang out with. You want to be able to do all these fun things and create all these good memories, which I totally understand. But all I can say is that maybe I don't know everything yet, but I do know that I'm pretty sure my parents were right about everything. Like, I really truly believe that the path that they set me up for is completely out of pure love. So again, for all of you out there that are struggling, who think life is unfair because you can't do other things that the other kids can do, you can't do the other things that the other teens are doing, just know that, like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna be you. If you're gonna rebel, you're gonna rebel. And if you're gonna listen and I don't know, like, do what I did, I just want to be that person to say, yes, I have gone through this and I'm so glad that I did, because life is just so much better. Like, I really truly believe that everything my parents have done for me is because they wanted me to keep my head on right. They didn't want me to get involved with the wrong type of people. They didn't want me to get too distracted. They didn't want me to fail out of school. They didn't want me, like, they wanted me to have a good, successful life. And I followed through, and that's exactly what I got. Like, I think the moral of this story, if there even is a moral to this story, is I know that you're struggling right now if you are going through this. If you are like me and you have really strict parents and you don't quite understand everything yet, and you're angry and you're so full of these emotions and you feel isolated and you feel like nothing in the world is fair, I understand you. I think the biggest thing for me is that I just felt like in my heart it was the right thing to do, is to listen to my parents, because I trusted them so much. So at the end of the day, if you do what you really trust, like you feel like you trust, if you feel like you trust your parents and you really feel like what they're saying, you know, eventually it'll all make sense to you. Whatever situation that you're in right now, I really hope that you get through it. For those of you that can't really relate because your parents aren't very, you know, strict, or they're more relaxed and stuff, I do advise that you know, have a little bit of understanding for people that can't necessarily have the same luxury as you, you know. I think that was another big thing in friendships, is that, like, I feel like I couldn't build more on friendships because I wasn't allowed out constantly, and I wasn't allowed to be with my friends constantly because I had to study. So, I mean, if you have a really good friend but you know their parents are really strict, you know, I would be mindful of that. Don't take it to heart. You have to understand that their parents mean nothing against you as a person, but they do have rules for their child. They do have rules for their teenager. And so I think that if you have a friend that is, like, really, I want to say afraid of their parents, if you have a friend that you know it has really strict parents, I would really like it if you respected that and didn't make your friend feel like a piece of crap because they don't want to go out on a Tuesday night when their parents are gonna beat their ass when they get home. Hopefully this video was, like, I don't know, like a cute little talking video. I hope you grabbed, you know, some lunch. I hope you grabbed a nice cup of tea while you watched it, and, you know, you're just playing it while you're doing your makeup or while you're playing your video games or whatever. Like, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out my Instagram, self-promo at thatlinguistic. I'm gonna put it right here, and I will be asking you guys to send me your questions for a Q&A video. So yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.
Natural disasters, my baby has been around for me. Kingdoms are falling, angels be calling, none of that could ever